Welcome back to the Walnut.
Today we'll take a look at the questions which are connected with what exactly it's given here. What is it? Well, at a glance you can say that it's a cube, right? Well, cube and dice. So what is the difference between cube and dice? This is what? So this is what exactly on the board. So this is a 3-dimension. Of course, this I tried to make it a 3-dimension, right? So what type of questions and what is dice? First we deal with the dice, then we'll go for cubes. So dice, what type of questions come from dice? And what is a dice? Or dice is a 3-dimensional, well, exactly what you see right here. And the difference between dice and cube is what? The cube is unmarked. The faces of cube is not really marked, but the faces of dice, it's marked. For example, this case, well, the faces, sometimes it's marked as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes it's marked as A, B, C, D, E, and F. 6 faces, so up to 6, right? Sometimes it could be symbols. You may have a triangle here, you may have a dollar sign here, then you may have some kind of hearts, some other signs, whatever it is. Only 3 faces we can see for the dice. The questions which are related with the competitive exam, you can see only 3 faces. Naturally, there are 2 images given, and sometimes 2, sometimes 3 images. You never know. And you have to answer the questions. For example, this case, these faces are marked. This is 2. This one is 5. This one is, let's say, 1. And only 3 faces we can see. And the other 3 faces, we have no idea. For example, what is opposite to 2? And 1 is at the top, right? So what would be at the bottom? Can we predict? But there are 2 types of dice. One is a standard dice and the other is ordinary dice. So what is the difference between these 2? So we'll take a look at this. This is standard dice and this is the ordinary dice. A standard dice, the sum of the numbers or dots on the opposite faces are equal to 7. For example, so this dice right here, let's say this is 5 and the opposite of that must be 2. So 5 plus 2 is 7. Let's say top is 4, then the bottom must be 3. 4 plus 3 is 7. Then we have 2 more is missing, right? So what is it? 1 and the back would be 6. So 6 is always opposite to 1. 6 and 1. 6 plus 1 is 7. So 6 is opposite to 1. Then the other pair, 5 and 2. 5 is opposite to 2. 4 must be opposite to 3. So that's called standard dice. If you see one face is marked as 5, then you can predict what is on the other face. How about for ordinary dice? It's slightly different. Ordinary dice, that's different from standard dice. So what is the peculiarity of ordinary dice? The sum of the numbers on opposite faces are not equal to 7. So for example, let's say we have a dice and this one face is marked as 5. If it is an ordinary dice, the opposite side we cannot really predict it. It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 6, it could be 1, you never know. So competitive exams, what kind of a dice you can expect in the question? 99% of the time, what you expect is ordinary dice. Well, if it is a standard dice is given to you, then definitely they will mention that in the question. This is a standard dice. If it is not mentioned, definitely we are looking at an ordinary dice. So ordinary dice, what is the issue with that? It's unpredictable. Then how do you deal with those kind of questions? So we have a number of rules for that. So we'll take a look at that one by one. Here it is. Rule number 1. If one common number appear at the same position of the 2 images of the same dice. 2 images of the same dice. This is the 2 images. The dice is same. So we are just looking at the dice from 2 angles. For example, if you look at the dice from this angle, you see these 3 faces. Then you just rotate the dice in some kind of angle. You met 3 other 3 faces. That's what exactly given over here. Now, what is the condition? The one common number appear at the same position here, which is a common number 6. 6 appear at the same position. Then the remaining surface, which is not visible on both images. So which is not visible on both images? Here we have 6, 2 and 5. Here we have 6, 3 and 1. which is not visible? 4. The number 4 is not visible on both images. That means the number 4 must be opposite to 6. So this common number 6 must be opposite to the number which is not really visible on both dice. That's a simple way of getting the answer, which is opposite to 6. So that is what the example here, the explanation given here. 6 is the same, 6 is at the same position, and the number which is missing over here is 4. So that means 6 must be opposite to 4. That's what it is. So that's rule number 1. Now rule number 2. So we'll take a look at what is that. If one common number is at the same position on 2 images of the same dice. So in this case, we have 1. And here we have 1. 1 is exactly at the same position on both images of the same dice. If that's the case, the remaining surfaces of both dice are opposite to each other. So that means 4 must be opposite to 3. So 4 is right here in front panel or front face, and here 3 is at the front face. So the 4 must be opposite to 3. At the same time, 2 is on this side, this face, and which is exactly the same face on the second image, that is 5. So that is 2 and 5 are opposite. And this case, which is missing over here? Well, this case we don't have, if you look at both images, what is missing here? 6 is missing here. Then 6 must be opposite to what? The common number 1. So that is, we apply the rule number 1 right here. Rule number 1 is what? If you have a common number and the number which is not visible on both images, that must be the number opposite to the common number. So ultimately, you know what, you can apply rule number 1 here and rule number 2 over here as well. So when you apply rule number 1, 1 is opposite to the number which is missing over here. So what is it? 1 must be opposite to 6. So ultimately, if you look at this, 4 and 3. 4 and 3. Well, 4 is opposite to 3. So 4 and 3 are at opposite faces, correct? That means 4 plus 3 is 7. Second one, 2 plus 5. 2 and 5 are at opposite faces. So 2 plus 5 is 7. And 1 plus 6 is 7. So that means this is what type of dice? Standard dice. Well, it is not mentioned in the question, but you can see that it's a standard dice. But we cannot really predict whether it's a standard dice or it's an ordinary dice. So we start with the assumption it's a ordinary dice. So that's okay. So we have rule number 1, rule number 2. Now we'll go for rule number 3. So what's the rule number 3? If any two numbers are common on the 2 images of the same dice, irrespective of their position. So irrespective of their position, then the remaining number, third number, on each of the images are opposite. So what is that? Any two numbers are common on the 2 images. Actually, it is 5 and 6 are the common numbers, correct? Okay, fine. So 5 is here. This is 5. So 5 and 6 are the common numbers. We have 2 common numbers. That's what? Any two numbers are common on 2 images. That case, what it says, the number which is left out on the first dice and the second dice. So a number which is left out on the first dice is 4, second dice is 1. So 4 must be opposite to 1. So that's rule number 3. So 4 is opposite to 1, 4 plus 1 is 5. So it's clear it's not a standard dice. Standard dice, the sum of the opposite sides must be 7. So in this case, it's not a standard dice, it's an ordinary dice. You got it? Now we go for rule number 4. What it talks about, rule number 4. This is what? One common number appears on 2 images of the same dice. Okay, so one common number appears on the 2 images of the same dice. And the common number is not at the same position. Alright. See that? The common number, which is a common number? 2 is the common number. So we have 2 right here. And in the second image, 2 is right here. 2 is not at the same position on both images. If 2 is at the same position on both images, what kind of rule we apply? Definitely we'll go for rule number 1. Is it? Or rule number 2. But this case, the common number which appears on both images, that is not exactly at the same position. That means we cannot really apply rule number 1. We cannot really apply rule number 2. For rule number 3, what is the condition? There must be 2 common numbers. Here, we don't have 2 common numbers here, only 1 common number. So you cannot really apply rule number 1, 2 and 3. So what do we do in this case? So this case we have, let's say we have to find out which number is opposite to 4. Is it possible to get it? So what we get it from here, 2 is adjacent to 4 and 5, right? 2 is adjacent to 4 and 5. So 2 is not opposite to 4 and 5. 2 is always adjacent to 4 and 5. So 2 is adjacent to 4 and 5. At the same time, here 2 is adjacent to 1 and 3. 2 is adjacent to 1 and 3. So ultimately, 2 is adjacent to 1, 3, 4, 5. So that means 2 cannot be opposite to any of these numbers. So total 6 numbers we have. Which are the numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Here we are talking about 2. 2 cannot be opposite to 1, 3, cannot be opposite to 1, cannot be opposite to 3, cannot be opposite to 4 and cannot be opposite to 5. That means 2 must be opposite to 6. So 2 must be opposite to 6. Right. So here we got that 2 is opposite to 6. That is perfectly alright. However, if they ask you to find out the question which is opposite to 5 or which number is opposite to 4, how do you find that out? So actually what happened to this die is it's kind of like rotated. And we have the only common number, that's 2, that on a different position. So you cannot really apply any of the rules. So we have rule number 4. We have to take it such a way. The common number, you have to start it from the common number and write the numbers in the clockwise direction. So 2, the clockwise of 2 is 5 and clockwise of 5 is 4. So how do you write it? Starting from 2, 5 and 4. Now we have the next image. We'll do the similar thing. We'll start from 2. Which number is clockwise to 2? It is 3. And which is clockwise of 3? That's 1. So we'll start from 2. Then the next number is 3. And next one is 1. Right? So we got that. So 2 and 2. Here we have 5. 5 is opposite to 3. So in this case, we have 5 is opposite to 3. And 4 must be opposite to 1. So 4 must be opposite to 1. So that is how we find this out. So that is what rule number 4. So if you have a situation like this, one common number appears on 2 images of the same dice, but not at the same position. If it is at the same position, we'll go for rule number 1 or 2. So it is not at the same position. So what do you do? This is what. You'll start from the common number, just go clockwise. So common number, then clockwise, 5, 4. So 5, 4. You write that one. Now go for the second image. Start from the common number, 2, go clockwise, 3 and 1. So 2, 3 and 1. So if you see that, what do you get? 5 must be opposite to 3, 4 must be opposite to 1. And which one is missing here? 6. That 6 must be opposite to 2. And we know that that's 2 and 6 are opposite. Well, if you have a question which is opposite to 6, without apply this rule, you can get that from here by observation. But if they ask you the question which is opposite to 4, then of course you have to look at here. 4 is opposite to 1. And of course, if they ask you the question which is opposite to 5, then 5 must be opposite to 3. That's the case. All right, let's move on. This is rule number 5. What is rule number 5 talks about? The adjacent faces of an open dice. This is an open dice, something like an open cardboard box. So you have to make a box, or you have to make a dice from these pieces here. So in order to make those pieces, in order to make the dice from those pieces, how do you do? F must be folded towards this direction, right? And D must be folded towards this, right? And A must be folded like this. And B must be folded like this. So we have to consider any one of this face as the base. So base, bottom part, right? So which is the bottom part? Your choice, you can assume anything you want. So let's take it this way. So the C, I'll use another color, you can see better this one. So this is a base. So this is the base, and if the C is the base, then F must be folded towards this, right? And B must be folded like this. So B must be standing like this, right? And F must be like this. And we have, from this side, if you fold this box, E must be like this, and A must be on the top of this. So that means C and A must be opposite. So A must be like this. And D must be on this side, right? So this is what it is, and always, one thing it is most important, this kind of questions, the C cannot be opposite to the letters which is adjacent to that, or the numbers which is adjacent to that. So in this case C cannot be opposite to E, and C must be adjacent to F, cannot be opposite to F, and B, it's always adjacent to C, cannot be opposite, and D must be adjacent to C, cannot be opposite. The only letter which is opposite to C must be A. So C and A are opposite. So that the peculiarity here, C, and we have another face in between, and the third face. And third faces, those third faces must be opposite to each other. And how about the other third face? Other set of third faces? This is what it is, B. And B must be opposite to E. And B and E must be opposite. In that case, F and D must be opposite. So that is what it is. That's our rule says. F is adjacent to B. So ultimately, the rule says that, you know what? Adjacent faces cannot be opposite on this kind of situations, open dice. So this open dice, it's not always the same pattern it would be. It would be in a different way. Sometimes they may give you it something like this. It would be A, and well, it would be something like this. This is what it is. So we have C here, we have D here, we have F here, and we have two more faces, right? And this one would be E, and we have one more, that's B. Now we have to make a dice from this open dice. So once you make that, what do you see that case? Definitely something that catches your attention must be A and E. So A and E must be opposite, and D and B must be opposite. So I'll use another color for that, otherwise it would be confusing for us. So this is D, and D must be opposite to B, and C and F must be opposite as well. So that's the case. Alright, so we have 5 rules, and always remember, we'll be dealing with what kind of dice? It's ordinary dice. Ordinary dice, what's the peculiarity? The opposite sides, the sum of all the opposite sides may not be equal to 7. If the sum of all the opposite faces are equal to 7, that's a standard dice. But if it is an ordinary dice, it's unpredictable, because if it's one face, 5 is given, we cannot predict the other face. That's the challenge we have from dice.
We have done a number of challenging questions from this area. Well, if you need to have additional questions for practice, take a look at our website walnuttraining.org and click on study materials. That will take you to a download page with a number of questions, and you can pick and choose the type of exam you want to appear for. So there are questions which are for bank exams, campus placement. You can see the questions for UTC NET, and you can see the questions for NTSE as well. So choose the area you like to have. Thanks for watching.